Hello folks, today we are resuming our journey through the mid-Atlantic states. Last week we were in the southern part of New York State, the most southern part of New York State, and today we're going back to Delaware. I visited this place 2 weeks ago, and now we are here to explore another lovely town in Delaware. This old building behind me, I don't know what it was, but it sure looks like a nice backdrop to begin our video. On this fine November day, probably the last fine day we'll see in a long while, is a family-friendly playground park sort of thing with a hill behind it. And behind this hill is a very wonderful reservoir. Let's explore that. That's gonna be a long way up. Here in Newark, Delaware, we're making our own expeditions. We're climbing new heights. We're seeing all this landscape behind us, but it's a really nice sight. We've made it to what I consider Newark, Delaware's greatest achievement, the Newark Reservoir. I don't know how many gallons of water this reservoir holds, but this is such an impressive feat of engineering. I want to be clear, this is not natural. The city of Newark, Delaware deliberately made this. And the best part of it is it's located at the top of this hill. I thought I would go over a hill and then go back down and see this, but no sir. Oh, that's a shame. Looks like I can't go in here. I guess the commoners like me aren't allowed here. Only the reservoir officials. As I was saying, this thing, not at all natural. This entire body of water, it was constructed by the city. It was intentionally made, not for just looking around and saying, hey, that looks pretty, but there's a specific reason that this was built. You see, years ago, there was a drought here in Newark. Not enough people in the city could get a source of water. Because of that, Newark, Delaware had to make a decision. They gotta carve out something, put a bunch of water in it, so that there's an ever-ready supply of water if another drought happens. Seems like the sheer size of this body of water is going to prevent any sort of drought affecting the community for weeks. Enough water to go around for a long, long time. You know, it looks almost like it's sunset here, but it's really only the early afternoon. So it's nice enough of a day to do a lap around this entire reservoir. And it's taken a while, but I'm enjoying it, and it's a very peaceful experience. Even though it reminds me of it, this is nothing like the time I did a marathon in Marathon. That was excruciating. I'm never doing that again. Check that video out for yourself if you want to know how excruciatingly painful that was for me. If you're ever on a trip and stop by Newark, Delaware, this is something I recommend 100%. This reservoir is thrilling to walk around, yet it's peaceful and it's non-strenuous. Anyway, onward we go. We have a downtown Newark to explore. Let's go. This is a really interesting downtown. It's a college town, Newark. So obviously there's going to be a lot of college student oriented places. I'll even see if we can get a glimpse into the University of Delaware. Take a good look at the architecture. A lot of the old buildings we have here have been kept, but new college student catered businesses have popped up in these locations. Well, looks like we're here. Old College behind us is marked with this National Register of Historic Places. And this means that the National Park Service, the bureau that designates all of these national parks from Yellowstone to Arches and all of the ones in between, that service also deems what is worthy of being preserved in the country. This is one of those places. Not just the gallery behind us, but this whole area. And you can definitely see why these buildings look at least a century old. And they're beautiful at that, needless to say. Compared to all of the other colleges that we've visited in the past, the University of Delaware, well, this seems like such a much more inviting environment. Well, it's time to move forth on our journey through Newark, Delaware. I have a few more things to show you all, which are just so geographically exciting. Let's do it. All right, I am in the middle of the woods, right next to some state route, some random state route. But the special thing is we are getting very close to what's called the arc point. Now, in terms of geography, the arc point is something of much interest. Delaware is one of the few states with a circular border. If you look at the state of Delaware and its shape, it's clear to see the northern part is a circle. Now, if you want to look at things at technical terms, technically we are in the state of Pennsylvania, but we are in such a southern part of Pennsylvania that this road, which actually is not a state route, it's just a local country road, it goes through the state border twice. But I guess what's of interest here at the arc point is that this is one of the few borders in the world where the border goes like curve, point, flat. And look at this. This is the marker. This is the monument between Pennsylvania and Delaware. They even added a nice little seat. This is the Delaware side, but on top there's actually a nice visual representation. This is north, and this is Pennsylvania. This is Delaware. So obviously we are such small beings in this earth that the curve, the border, is just unable to be seen. It's just a straight line, but this is the curve. And to think that back in 1892, surveyors were doing these big brain mathematics to know exactly where the point between Pennsylvania and Delaware were. As exciting as it is to say that the coverage project has covered the arc point right there, we have one more place to go. Our journey is not over quite yet. So, after a long day of exploration through Newark, Delaware, we come across our final objective. We are trying to find the tri-state point between Pennsylvania Delaware, and Maryland, which is a new state. I gotta be careful though. I don't want to step foot into Maryland. That would be a little bit anticlimactic for visiting my fifth, potentially, state. Oh, nice, a landmark. That should tell us we are not trespassing. Good to know. Oh, look at this, I see it. It's right there. That little tombstone looking thing. P for Pennsylvania. M for Maryland. That's another M for Maryland. And a P. Hold on, I'm not sure if this is right. Pennsylvania. Maryland. Maryland. Pennsylvania. Y'all forgot about Delaware. Wow, whoever made this monument down there back in 1849, really, I have no other words for it, robbed Delaware of its glory. That monument at least deserves one of those letters being a D for Delaware. But I guess not. Secondly, I'm a bit upset at myself. I accidentally was careless and walked across to Maryland. So technically I've been in Maryland, but we don't do things that way at the Coverage Project. We don't just say, oh, I've stepped an inch into another state. All right, we've been in another state. I feel like things have to be more legitimate for that. We're not counting Maryland this time. Maybe another week. Well, as the sun sets behind us, I don't know where we are. Are we in Maryland right now? Or are we in Pennsylvania or Delaware? I don't know. We started out in Newark, and now we're here. But I guess it's time to conclude this video. Kneeling right beside this fairly inaccurate tri-state monument, it doesn't seem like a monument. I don't know, it's very small and sappy. More travels to come. I will see you all at the next location. At least I found a border that's concise.